for an important update regarding the upcoming tax sale. I want to recognize everyone who has joined us today, starting with Council President Nick Mosby, my Councilwoman Danielle McCray of the 2nd District, Councilwoman Ramos from the 14th District, our City Administrator Chris Shorter, our Deputy City Administrator Daniel Ramos. I think Daniel is here with us. Our Finance Director, oh there you, sorry Daniel. Our Finance Director Henry Raymond, City Solicitor Jim Shea, Tard Carter, the Director of Chief Information Officer for BCIT, Alice Kennedy, our Acting Housing Commissioner, Tisha Edwards, the Mayor's Office Director of Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, Dan Ellis, Executive Director of Neighborhood Housing Service Baltimore, our Health Commissioner Dr. Jaraja, who I'm sure is happy to have a press conference break, and our Police Commissioner Michael Harrison. As mayor, as I've said before, and still I remain committed to protecting homeowners during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. In my 2021 State of the City address, I directed the Finance Department to use every tool and resource available to make sure no one loses their home to tax sale in the midst of this pandemic. Keeping that promise today, I have directed the City Administrator and the Finance Director to take the necessary action to protect Baltimore's most vulnerable legacy homeowners prior to this year's tax sale on May the 17th. First, in the first step, by removing new owner-occupied tax liens from the process. This marks a historic shift in Baltimore's thinking around the tax sale, and is only the first step in my administration's and what we will be taking in regarding the tax sale. Additionally, starting today, the city will closely monitor the 2021 tax sale and take action to support homeowners during and immediately following this year's sale. The Finance Department has dedicated 3 full-time employees to individually assist homeowners through this process. Beginning today, residents experiencing issues related to the tax sale can call 410-396-3556. That's 410-396-3556 to be connected with a member of the Bureau of Revenue Collections who is familiar with the tax sale process. Residents who are waiting for their payment to post, who are appealing any bill, and who are unsure about whether they qualify for additional support should also call 410-396-3556 for support. I remain committed to further reforms of this system. My administration will also pursue local and state policy changes that will give the city more local control over the tax sale process. Today's announcement is about being targeted and strategic in our approach to protect our legacy homeowners and center equity. This is also about taking the action we can take now, not simply just kicking the can down the road, while also working to address the underlying issues in this process to keep our most vulnerable residents housed. We know that Councilwoman McCray's legislation, which I was proud to support as Council President, will go into effect on July 1st, 2021, and build additional safeguards into this process. The Councilwoman's bill will withhold owner-occupied liens from the tax sale for older adults, people receiving federal disability benefits, and households with a combined income less than $40,000. Home ownership is one of the most important factors when it comes to building generational wealth for our Black and brown communities and our low-income households in Baltimore City. I want to personally thank the City Administrator, our Deputy City Administrator, Ramos, and Finance Director Raymond for their hard work in making this a reality. I look forward to working with the team behind me, the City Administrator, the City Council, and our state delegation as we continuously strive to build better structures and protect our legacy homeowners. And now I will turn it over first to Mr. President, Council President Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, I would like to thank the mayor for his leadership on this issue. I would like to thank his team for their pragmatic, strategic approach in getting us where we are today, and that's protecting our most vulnerable residents here in the city of Baltimore. We know that the past year has been a challenging year for our residents. We also know that draconian policies, outdated policies, and sometimes predatory policies such as tax sales disproportionately impact our most vulnerable residents here in the city of Baltimore. That's why this action from the mayor today is so important. It removes that extra anxiety and stress off of folks that are already dealing with so much. Loss of a loved one, challenging between jobs and virtual learning with their young folks, not being able to see family members for months upon months. That's what we're here today about. The last thing I'd like to say regarding our vulnerable residents is, as a middle-class homeowner, or maybe someone who has inherited a property, your biggest investment and access to creating generational wealth is through your property. It's through owning that property. And when policies like this strip that property away, we're not only impacting and displacing that individual, but we're potentially affecting generations to come. And that's what we're here today to stop. Now, this is just a temporary procedure. I know that the mayor has communicated that he's committed to a long-term solution and working on that solution. And as his partner in progress, the council stands ready to support him there. So again, thank you to the mayor for his amazing leadership as well as his team for all the hard work that they've put in today. Thank you. Next up, we will have Councilwoman McCray.
I'm going to be brief. I just want to thank the mayor and his team for the forward-thinking leadership with this plan. One thing that I know is that we cannot continue to build our budget on the backs of our most vulnerable residents. I'm also looking forward to working with our finance department and just making sure that the bill that was passed in 2020, a bill that was passed within 2020, is implemented for our low-income residents, for our seniors, for our persons with disabilities within our city, just to make sure that they have an additional vehicle to keep their homes out of tax sale. Thanks so much again to the mayor and his entire team for your work.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and team. I just want to talk a little bit about the last few weeks. We have witnessed heroic efforts to help homeowners save their homes from predatory tax sale. Advocates from Fight Blight Baltimore, Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service, Pro Bono Resource Center, volunteers in my district and my office, and so many others have helped many homeowners through this process, trying to address accounting issues, applying for the homeowner's tax credit, and reminding people of the deadline, some people who didn't get notices. I myself knocked on about 100 doors in my district to try to find people and help people who are in tax sale. My constituents and residents across the city donated to the Better Waverly Fund and the Stop Oppressive Seniors Fund. All of these folks believe strongly that the way we can collect taxes in Maryland and in Baltimore is predatory, and they worked very hard to save people's homes. Together, over $80,000 was raised to help residents avoid tax sale this year, which helped 62 homeowners. The Pro Bono Resource Center, MVLS, and others helped many through accounting issues, while our office helped solve an additional 35 residents' accounting issues. I am certain that my council colleagues also resolved countless accounting issues and helped people avoid tax sale. I want to thank Director Raymond and his team for answering every email, answering every question, and being flexible with our requests. Thank you, sir. Let me tell you about the homeowners we met. I met a great-grandmother caring for her great-grandkids who did not remember to pay her taxes or to apply for the homeowner's tax credit. She's 90. She shouldn't have to apply for the homeowner's tax credit every year. And that is a change at the state level that we need to make. I met a family who inherited and now live in their grandfather's home, who don't have a mortgage, but could not manage the tax burden because of a COVID hardship that they experienced. I met homeowners who have to choose between paying their citations and paying for the work that needs to be done to fix the home which caused the citation. And I met residents who were stuck in a vacant building, who were stuck with a vacant building notice, but the previous builder and rehabber of that property didn't file a proper use and occupancy permit. I'm introducing legislation this evening to fix this problem. I can go on and on about the situations homeowners find themselves that land them into tax sale. I am really excited that the Scott administration has answered the calls for change, and know the mayor has lost sleep over how many residents need assistance, probably as much as I have, I would imagine. What the administration has announced today is a wonderful first step. The next step is to help every single homeowner this year, and we will continue to help the administration do that, and put through reforms for the entire system, both at the administrative level and also the statewide and local level, to change this predatory tax sale process. I look forward to working with the administration, my city council colleagues, and advocates who've been working on this issue for years to accomplish these important goals. Thank you very much, Mayor Scott and members of the administration. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and I want to thank the Councilwoman and my Councilwoman for their tireless advocacy around this particular issue. And before we take questions today, I wanted to address this weekend's violence. Right now, the city is at 105 homicides, which is 105 too many. And we know that we had a mass shooting, let's call it what it is, a mass shooting in Carroll Park last night, which is completely unacceptable. I met with the police commissioner's team today about making sure that we are putting in strategies and things in place to deal with the events that we can prevent, but we also have to continue to be engaged in our communities. I spent time last weekend walking the streets of South Baltimore and Brooklyn, where we've had dozens of incidents of violence this year, and it was in West Baltimore on Saturday, and going to continue to do that while I'm pushing the police department to be better, while I'm pushing all of our agencies to be better. But we also have to be better as citizens. We also have to be better, in particular in Baltimore, as men, when we are not allowing and letting people be so comfortable in a group of 300, 400, 500 people just to start shooting when people are at a barbecue or a cookout or a party in the park. We cannot continue to allow that to happen. We will not continue to allow that to happen. We're going to continue to push. We're going to continue to hold people accountable. As I said last week, if we know that you shot somebody, we will not blink until we have brought you in. We will not allow cowards to continue to shoot women, men, children, grandparents, anyone in the city. And for those who think this is so simple, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea the pain that these families are going through and what these communities are going through. So you have to have a deep understanding of how simple minor conflict is ending in people dying in our city, and it doesn't have to be that way. We have to have a look in the mirror and have a self-check as a city of what we're going to allow to be happening on our streets. And now I turn it over to Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. Since Friday, April 30th, Baltimore has seen a spike in violence, much sharper spike than in previous weekends. 11 individuals have been shot, 3 of them fatally wounded. 2 other individuals died as a result of being assaulted. One of the fatal shooting victims, investigators have learned, was involved in a dice game, which, let me remind you, is still illegal activity. And we will disrupt it. What we need community members to do is to call us when you see it, so that we can dispatch officers to disrupt it and then to enforce the law. While another of the deceased shooting victims was shot along with 4 other victims during a major gathering in Carroll Park on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. A violent few days like we just saw is devastating, and it is heart-wrenching. As always, our hearts and prayers go out to the families and friends of the victims, as well as the many people who unexpectedly had to witness such tragic events. So how can so many acts of violence occur within such a short time? We had a robust deployment strategy for the weekend, and in some of the incidents, we had officers within a couple of blocks away and responded very quickly. But as I've stated many times in the past, this violence that we see far too often, as the mayor mentioned, occurs when individuals decide to pick up a gun and then to later use that gun to solve their conflicts or to enact revenge on someone because of a previous conflict. Just last week, we informed you of several arrests we made in major cases, and those arrests came as a result of great investigative police work put forth by our homicide detectives and you, the community's help by providing pertinent information. And to that point, our detectives are still working diligently to solve these newest acts of violence and to bring those individuals who are responsible for the latest acts of violence to justice. We know that these suspects are no strangers to our community, nor are they strangers to the criminal justice system. And we are asking for any member of our community to help us solve these cases. If you have any information about any of these incidents, you can call our homicide detectives at 410-396-2100, or you can remain anonymous by calling Metro Crime Stoppers at 1-866-7-LOCK-UP. Together, we can put an end to this violence. And let's remind you that large events with live entertainment is still prohibited in the city. So we want to make sure our citizens know that, so that these large events don't attract undesirable people who come and cause harm to them. So please let us know if you plan to have these things so we can work with you to keep you safe. Thank you, and at this time, I'll turn it back over to our mayor.
Thank you. Questions?
Hi, this is Emily from WIPR. Thanks for getting everyone here today. I have a question about the timeline of this announcement. On April 30th, that was the final deadline for people to make payments to be removed from the tax sale. So I just wonder why we announced the plan today after that deadline passed. Thank you.
Director Raymond?
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Scott for his leadership regarding the tax sale process and the changes that are being made as it relates to the May 21 tax sale. The timeline for how this occurred is this is a very complex issue. It affects the revenue of the city, but more importantly, we want to protect the financially fragile citizens of our city. And it took a matter of time in order to develop the strategy, and that's what led to this timeline. Thank you.
Thank you. And just another question. I know that there are very many people who live in homes that they don't have the titles to because of issues with cloudy deeds. So they are not technically living in owner-occupied properties, even though they may have lived in that house all their life. So when it comes to making sure that those people are unaffected by tax sale, what is the city's problem with the cloudy deed issue?
So, Emily, as you heard today, that this is just the first step, and we don't want anyone to lose their home because of tax sale. Now, what we are going to do is be strategic how we do that. There are going to be things that we can't go into right now to make sure that we're protecting those people, the situations that they're living in, and protecting the end goal of them keeping their home. But I wanted to make sure that you heard that from me direct, and then I'll turn it over to Director Raymond.
To follow up on your question, in situations like that, we'll review them on a case-by-case basis. The big picture is we're removing properties from tax sale that are owner-occupied. If they've been in tax sale, this is their first year. Additionally, the second group, owner-occupied properties that have not been in tax sale for the previous 4 years. Once tax sale is completed, we will still examine the results of the tax sale to determine what other steps need. And further, as we move further out, we'll be looking at legislation and other policy changes.
Thank you. Alexa? I think that's you. Yep.
Good afternoon. My question is for the commissioner regarding two of the cases over the weekend. If you could clarify a narrative as to what's believed to lead up to the Carroll Park quadruple shooting and then the shooting of the man in Northwest Baltimore, that homicide visiting from Israel. If you could clarify a narrative in both of those cases, what it's believed led up to those shootings, and then what is the department doing in the immediate to address this violence?
Thank you. Two great questions. In the Carroll Park shooting, what we know is that there were several hundred people out there, and at some point, There were young men driving or riding the dirt bikes and the slingshots through the city that arrived there. What we believe happened at this point is some type of argument ensued between somebody in that group with somebody in a different group, and one person began firing at the other group, causing 4 people to be shot. That's the information that we believe right now. Certainly, now it is about how we prevent that by making sure unpermitted events are not occurring and that people are working with us to secure the appropriate permits when the time comes to have those large gatherings with live entertainment. And working to make sure we can contain some of the dirt bikes when we learn about them, where they're going to be, and how to get them to disengage that behavior without getting into very dangerous vehicle pursuits. We're working on all of that with all of our other law enforcement partners. In the Northwest case, we believe right now that there's information to support that that was an attempted robbery that turned fatal. Yeah. So with our deployment strategy, the Southern District knew about the event in Carroll Park, and so there were officers assigned to the outer perimeter. There was officers assigned to go inside, and so with that information, we created a robust strategy, but obviously the event grew to what it was, and the incident happened while not in the presence of the police officers.
My next question is for the mayor. Different topic. Has the city determined allocation for the American Rescue Plan, what that will be?
No, Alexa, thank you for the question. We're going to be releasing that in the coming weeks. As we said before, we know what we have been talking about with our partners in government and what I've said publicly before, that we're going to make sure that our recovery funds are used to put Baltimoreans back to work, to help our businesses that have been struggling, and also to invest in our people in neighborhoods that have been left behind for far too long. And I do want to, Alexa, add, I know you didn't ask me, but add on to what the commissioner is saying about making sure that we understand, again, that these minor conflicts in basically the presence of the police. We've seen it time and time again over the last weeks and months where the police are in the next block or they're right pulling up as the shooting happens. That tells us this level of violence is a little different and that we have to be more engaged in every facet of our city government, which is what we are going to do. Thank you. Next. Yvonne, I almost called you. It's muscle memory.
This is a question for City Council President Nick Mosby, if I could, quickly. I just had a question about the financial disclosure forms.
Yeah.
Your wife acknowledged the IRS tax lien, but yours does not. Can you explain the discrepancy?
So this has been a topic that we've talked about for months. It's a topic that has been addressed. I was responsive to it, and we took care of it. Millions of Americans owe tax liens. We're here talking about liens as it relates to very vulnerable Baltimoreans potentially losing their homes. So I appreciate the question. I appreciate the interest. But again, we've talked about this. I'll refer to my counsel. If there needs to be an update to a disclosure that I filed a week or two ago, there will be. But thank you for the question.
Emily?
You had mentioned earlier that you said the violence this year is a little bit different. What exactly is different? What are you seeing that is perhaps different than previous years, and what do you think is affecting that?
Well, thank you for that, Emily. I think if you've heard it, and you and I may have talked about this a little bit too. One, it's what you heard the commissioner say, right? That this is basic conflict, right? A simple argument should not lead to someone dying. Also, and if you heard me talk about this as late as last week, the amount of incidents that are domestic or intimate partner or people that know each other in nature, when we're having, we made an arrest in a guy who killed a young lady and just carried her to a wooded area in a park. We have to understand how that's different. That's not a common thing, but it's also for those who like to make this into something that's so simple, that there's a magic bullet for, that Baltimore has been looking for at least 37 years, that when you have people who are killing their girlfriends or shooting their girlfriends or shooting their ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend. That's something that we have to understand that it's a little different, but we have to tackle, especially when you have to let these folks know, as I say, you don't own her or her body. You don't own him or his body. Those people are allowed to live their lives without you and go on without you to be with someone else. And I think that we have to really uplift that, because there are people in Baltimore who go out to eat, who go to baseball games, who go to the club, who allow people to sleep in their house, who have shot their partner. And that's not okay. We can never accept that. I don't care if it's your baby boy. You have to make him man up for what he did. Thank you, everybody.